And welcome to the spotlight once again on my man, the bold twat, King Alex. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I fucking love chatting with you, mate. It's like, there's that weird bond you have with some people, and you can't just put it down to the fact that we both serve. But there's some people you just get along with, and it almost feels like we were in the same platoon, but that would never happen because you being a sniper twat and me being a legend of Mortimer. But
No, I know, mate. I know it feels like we're on opposite sides of the world, but I feel like I've known you a lot longer than I have.
See what I've got on my desk, mate? The missus got it for me.
Oh yeah, I like it.
And
Let's get that fun.
Whoop,
hey,
she even shoots. She bought it online for me. But yeah, it just bang. Whoop, there we go. I'm probably going to break shit. I shouldn't play with things while I'm streaming, but yeah.
Typical Mormon.
I have a very what would be the word? I'm easily distracted. Oh, a squirrel.
Yeah.
Just a quick thank you, Dan, for the 135. Where are the girls at? King Alex, he's right here.
I'm afraid that I'm about as female as it's getting today.
Yeah. So, mate, we've obviously done a spotlight on you. Couldn't believe it when I saw it. It was over 2 years ago, mate. The first time I ever spoke to you. I can't even remember who put me onto you, but I'm so glad they did because, as we were saying just before the show started, mate, there are some people you just feel, or no, that you said that just before, but there was an instant camaraderie there, and when Mark's moved on to become a DayZ dev, and you put your hand up and said you'd love to come on the show. I was like, you're the perfect guy because it's just that chemistry, and you got along great with Cobra as well. But this time round, I wanted to do something slightly different because it's something you and I have talked about a bit over the past couple of years. What it's like to be a former military person. A lot of people probably wonder why guys like us end up playing games like DayZ and Armour and these violent games when, at the same time, most of us are struggling with shit like PTSD and depression, anxiety, God knows what else. But I thought it might be interesting just to go back a bit further and do a bit more of a deep dive into you to get your story, because everyone's heard me waffle on about this shit over and over and over again. But it'd be nice to get your input. So what was your motivation for wanting to join the UK Defence Force?
So honestly, I'd always wanted to do it. When I grew up, I either wanted to make movies or I wanted to be in the army. And
oh, mate, you don't have a face for movies.
No, as in like direct them, make films and stuff.
Yeah, you're definitely on that line.
Yeah, I'm definitely a face for radio, but I quickly, I didn't enjoy school at all. I didn't get very good grades. I left school at 16, 17. So that was pretty much out the window. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to join the military. It's always something I grew up reading Bravo 20. I grew up playing the old Call of Duty.
Great book, even if it's a lot of question these days. But it's
we won't go into the authenticity of it, but great book. That's the kind of things I grew up on. The media I grew up on, Bravo 20 books and Call of Duty games. And I was going to say this now. A lot of people, when I was growing up, was like, I'm big into Call of Duty and stuff like that and Battlefield, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, but the army's not like that." And I'm like, so. Like, I don't think many people, maybe a little bit more now, realize how much certain games like that are used as a propaganda tool to get people into the military. They are massive recruitment tools. So I'd say now it's probably a little bit more normalized. But back then, I used to be a big Call of Duty fan, Battlefield fan. And then I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to join the army. And they're like, it's nothing like that game. I'm like, okay, I just want to fucking shoot guns and blow things up. That is cool. So I ended up doing that, decided to join the military. Took myself down to the careers office and, joined the regiment that the guy sat there. And that was that really. Off to basic training I went, aged 18.
Because it's a little bit different joining the military in the UK. You join an actual unit, and whereas in the Australian Army, you just join the Defence Force and then they assign you to a unit. But you can actually join specific units in the UK, can't you?
You could when I joined. I think it may have changed now. You could when I joined. If you're joining the infantry, you could when I was joining. They would say, what regiment would you like to serve with? And you would pick, and you would go to that. You would go to the training center, and then you'd be instructed by instructors from that unit. I think it may have changed now. I think you kind of go where the army needs you. And I think they're probably going to phase out some of the smaller county units, things like Duke of Lancs. I believe that's the way it's going now, which is a bit of a shame. Obviously, those regiments are all steeped in history and battle honours, but it's just the way the modern world's going. I will say the US has a much better, I'm not too clued up on the Australian, but the US has a much better dynamic of a fighting force. It has infantry, X, Y, Z, and then very specialist roles. That's probably the better way of forming a modern fighting force compared to, having the 53rd Stoke-on-Trent regiment that has like 10 blokes in it, or the paratroop regiment with 3,000. It's just, I think it does make more sense to do it this way. It's just a shame because obviously there's so much history in those regiments. But yeah,
it'd be good if they could do it both ways. Allow certain people, because there's quite often a lot of family history tied up with wanting to serve in the same unit as your dad, or and that sort of stuff should always be enabled where possible. But going back a little bit before that, what was it like for you growing up in the UK?
Yeah, it was all right. I came from like a lower middle class family. I didn't have a horrendous childhood. I had issues. I wasn't a very well behaved kid, so I was always in trouble. But, if I'd have just got on with school and got my head down, it would have been a pretty simple childhood. I probably would have had a much more successful life than I have now. But, I didn't behave myself. I didn't enjoy school. I thought it was a waste of fucking time. I still do, to certain extents.
Did you do like Army cadets or anything like that as a kid? Or
I did actually. I went twice. I went once. Thought it was all right. Got all my kit. Turned up the second week, and I hadn't ironed my kit and I hadn't polished my boots. And they said, "What have you done that for?" I said, "What does it need doing for?" And they said, "Well, you're never going to be in the military with that attitude." And I was like, I was the only fucking one who went. And I still, to this day, think fucking ironing clothes and polishing boots is fucking dumb. You shouldn't have to do it. But, I'm really glad I joined the regiment I did, because the fucking regiment I joined was the scruffiest, most unkempt regiment in the entire British Army, and they're proud of it.
Have you ever said what regiment it was?
Yeah, so I served with the Rifles. It used to be the Royal Green Jackets, and then they amalgamated with a few others, and I served with the Rifles. And they've gone through many changes, but I am very happy with where I went. My instructor said to me on like day one, because one of the instructors was a little bit more straight down the line, everything has to be ironed, you have to have creases, stuff like that. And my instructor was quite a bit of a rogue. And he told me from day one, combats are for dying in, not ironing. And I was like, I think I'm in the right place here. I don't give a shit about ironing uniform.
That's one thing I'll give the military is they're fucking good at coming up with acronyms, and some of them just stick in your head. Like to this day, I've got so many that I just spout off, and even my missus does it. And she'll meet people in her line of work doing shopping centres and that, and she'll just say something and they'll go, "Oh, did you have a service?" She goes, "No, my husband did." And it'll be things like prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance, and improvise, adapt, overcome. You just never forget these. But combats are for dying in, not for ironing. It's morbid, it's dark, and again,
but it's why this is true, dude.
It resonates. It's amazing how our brains work. Someone who's never served will probably hear that and go, "Oh my god, that's terrible." Whereas you and I are both laughing about it, going, that's fucking awesome. That's all. Yeah, combats are for dying in, not for ironing. I love it.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up joining. Grew up on sort of a lot of military media, loved fucking war films and like Saving Private Ryan.
Did you have any family history?
Nope, no family. But like my great granddad was like a stretcher bearer in World War II. I think he won a.
That's still fucking pretty badass, man. Stretcher bearers, it's not fucking easy. You basically can't defend yourself, and you've got to go out into the war zone. So, that's not something to to shoot down.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really understand it. I still don't, but I always remember being super young and being like, well, why did you not have a weapon? And he was like, well, because I was a conscientious objector, so I carried stretchers instead. And in my head, then obviously a little bit more now, I can understand personal preferences, but even back then, I was like, why would you not want to close with and kill the king's enemy? You know, it didn't really compute in my head, and I guess that kind of stuck with me through even when joining. You know, I'm not the cleverest of people, but I'm certainly a lot more intelligent than some people who end up joining the infantry. For some people, it really is this or prison. You know, some can't read or write and stuff. And I was definitely
we all
not
know
that.
people like that. Yeah,
I was definitely not
Archie's
that.
probably one of them.
Yeah, so I was definitely not that. And when I went for my test, you know, I could join pretty much everything. I think I couldn't be like an Apache pilot or something. I didn't have the maths understanding for stuff like that. And they were like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just want to fight, you know, that's what I want to do. And even then in the careers office, they were like, no, you should pick a trade. And I was like, I want fucking war to be my trade, mate. Like, this is what I want to do. And yeah, I guess maybe I should have picked a trade, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. You know, as bad as it sounds, war fighting was my trade, and I was absolutely obsessed with it.
Doesn't sound bad to me, mate. But again, you know, this is why we're doing this, so people can hear this. And I know there's going to be people sitting there going, "How fucking that's hoorah," all the rest of it. It's something if you don't know, you just never understand it. Like you even said something in there, the king's enemy, and there was a small bit of pride in me to hear someone else say that, because you know we're so downtrodden about being the British Empire, and Australia is still part of that, and I'm very proud of being part of the Commonwealth and all the rest of it. But you know, even for Americans, you know, they're fighting for their flag, for their constitution, for whatever. That's basically what the king is, or the queen before. You know, I was very proud of the fact that I swore my oath to Queen and country.
Same.
And I took that quite seriously. And, you know, was she perfect? God knows. Is Charles perfect? Fuck no. But you don't have to respect the person, but you respect the position. And
yeah, that's absolutely right.
It's a weird thing, especially in today's day and age, for people to be able to voice that. And I for one, it was so good to hear you say that, because it means a lot. It meant a lot to me, serving my country. And I only did the one deployment, but it meant the world to me. And I'm very proud of it. And it always makes me angry when I see people shooting down, because yes, there are issues about military industrial complexes and things like that. But that's something for the politicians. For the soldiers on the ground, we're always going to need the military. It's a fact of life, folks. You can be anti-war or conscientious object or whatever, but there's always going to be a need for men and women who are prepared to put their bodies on the line to defend the country's ideals and what the people want. If you've got issues with the wars and that, take that up with the politicians, not the men and women on the ground doing the dirty work.
That's absolutely right, mate. You know, the politicians decide foreign policy. The military is just sort of the hammer or the scalpel that enforces it. Doesn't matter what it is. If His or Her Majesty, obviously when I was in it was Her Majesty, if they decide that's what it's done, then it will be carried out with extreme prejudice, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yep. I see Ducks in chat saying Australia hasn't had to defend its territory since World War II. Thankfully, we haven't. There's been a little bit of argy-bargy. We've had some stuff with Indonesia in the past. But we're kind of blessed, Australia, being an island nation, a bit like the UK. An island nation. So we're a little bit more remote than you guys, but we're not really. We've got Papua New Guinea right near us as well. I think you can see Papua New Guinea from the northern tip of Australia. So it's a bit like you can see Calais from the White Cliffs of Dover. In the UK. So but we had Vietnam, we had Korea, Malayo, Borneo. Then obviously the war on terror. There was some that went to the first Desert Storm, but you're always going to need men and women who are prepared to do what the country asks of them. And you shouldn't ridicule people for wanting to do that, even though, we're probably getting a bit off track here, so we might bring it back in. But how long did you actually serve for?
So I served for about 7 years, like 11 months or something. So you'll probably notice if anyone's ever watched my videos, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I served for 7 years. Sometimes I'm like 8 because it was like 7 years and 11 months. And I can never remember if I've said 7 or 8 in the last one. So it's probably always changing. But yeah, about 7 years and 11 months. I was going to do until my full 12, but so my half career, for those of you, it's 22 years is a full career, 12 is a half career, and you get half a pension. But you used to get bonuses at 4, 8, and 12, or 4, 6, 8, and 12, and then you would get like a lump sum bonus for everyone. But when I was approaching my 8, they were like, oh, we're cancelling the bonuses. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I just took my 6 then, because by the time I hit 8, I wouldn't have got my bonus. So I just took 6 and left. And there, I was feeling a bit downtrodden. I was feeling a bit unhappy with how the military was, how it was going. And I had some personal stuff going on, and the world was changing. And, you know, I knew guys on the private sector.
So what year roughly was this, just to help put it in a bit of context?
I got out 2022.
Yep.
2022 I got out. Yeah, so just after COVID. During COVID, I had been tasked to assist ambulance paramedics because paramedics were getting COVID and going sick. There wasn't enough of them. I was, trauma trained. I could drive Cat C, heavy vehicles. So we were put on secondment to the NHS, and then I was a paramedic for like 6-7 months. And I really enjoyed that. And a lot of lads ended up leaving to become paramedics after that job. And before that, I'd just come back from Afghanistan, and it was quite a shit tour for various reasons, but it wasn't great. And I've left feeling quite frustrated. And to go from that into then such a high of being on the paramedics and really enjoying myself, plus having a friend who was on the private sector earning 5 times what I was earning, I was like, yeah, I think now is sort of the time to leave. So I ended up banging my shit in and getting out.
It's really sad when they do start to do things like that. Amazing yacht destinations, new name change. They're in chat. LSR the Grey. I love that. That's pretty cool.
It's a cool name. It's a cool name.
Yeah. But we had something similar. It seems it's one of the sad parts of politics and the way that different governments, they always like to play silly buggers with the military. And that a big one we had in Australia while I joined was I think it was about 1993. The DFRDB, Defence Force Retirement and Death Benefit Scheme. The government introduced a new one, which was more like a bit like a normal sort of superannuation scheme. And I remember I was a young guy, I didn't have a clue. And I spoke to my platoon sergeant, and he said, I said, what should I do? And he goes, well, what's your plan? Are you going to be 20 years or you're going to get out before? And I went, I want to do 20 years. And he goes, stick with DFRDB then. And I did. And it didn't work out for me. I would have been better off with the other one. But it was just the way that they've changed it. And a lot of people who switched to the new one wasn't all it was cracked up to be either. It was, again, it didn't have some of the special perks that the other one had been put in place, to recognize what soldiers do. This was more just like a civilian kind of superannuation scheme. So a lot of blokes really got fucked over by just this small change of a superannuation plan. But they all love to play silly buggers with bonuses and yeah.
They like to save money, don't they?
Yep.
That's the thing. They like to save money.
And then when they need you, it's all like, you guys are probably a bit like us as well, where there's a massive problem with finding people willing to actually volunteer to serve their country.
Yeah, there's a big recruitment shortage, but they've also, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but they've made it a million times harder to just join the military. It's now handled by like a civilian. It's all online. Like when I joined, I just walked into the careers office and said, hey, I want to join the army. I spoke to a soldier who was there, maybe he was getting out, so he was taking a nice little posting, and he was like, hey, this is how it works. Now, people go through all this online, like, I don't know what it is. It's like an online scheme thing where you like put in your details. The first time people meet a soldier is day one of basic training for some of these people, and it just doesn't work. So I don't know why they've changed it that way, but yeah, we've got a massive recruitment problem here. But also, I just think there's no wars on, and at the end of the day, people join the army to go to war, and if there's no wars on,
that's another one that's an interesting topic to discuss, because it's such a weird concept again. And the only way I could describe it to people is that just imagine being a professional football player and all you ever did was train and never got to play an actual proper game of football. And I know we're not talking about football where the worst is going to happen is, a freak accident where you snap your ankle or something. But it's hard to explain, isn't it, Alex, that there's almost this, for Australia, like we had a lot of blokes who were very unhappy between the end of the Vietnam War and the start of Operation Solace when my battalion deployed. And even when we deployed, there was a lot of anger towards our battalion from men and women who didn't get deployed. They were jealous of us because we got to go overseas. And even though it wasn't a full-on war, we still got to be in a pretty much almost an active war zone where a country was in anarchy. When we came back, we were in a really weird position. Like there were Vietnam vets who didn't respect us. There were Vietnam vets who did respect us. And that was kind of ironic to us because if you know much about Vietnam, the Vietnam vets didn't get respected by the World War II vets. And you think they would have learned, but those same mistakes keep on happening. We would have new people transferred to our unit who had deployed and they hated us. We would have platoon sergeants and warrant officers and officers who hated us because we were all walking around with the first medals for the Australian Active Service Medal that had been issued since Vietnam. And there was a lot of anger and discontent. And then after that, like you said, nothing happened until Timor and then 9/11. And a lot of blokes were they could not handle the peacetime army after having done the real thing. Yeah.
It's fucking boring. I'm a big believer that men being bored is a big fucking problem. I think it's a big problem that we have in a lot of societies today. You just got to look at the poorest places where there's no sort of opportunities, nothing to work towards. And you got guys causing trouble, getting in fights, in and out of prison, drugs, violence. Yep. And there's just a lot of anger in those communities. And it's because I think they're bored. They've got nothing to work towards. They've got no way of getting out. They've got nothing to achieve. They've got no goal to strive for. I think they're bored. And it's the same in the military. If you train and train and train and train and train for combat, and then you never see any, you get bored and you get pissed off. And I think when people are like, "Oh, I could never go to war," I just think you can. You're just not bored enough. Like, you whine. You're distracted by modern day bullshit. If you wind the clock back 600 years and someone's like, "Look, mate, what are you going to do? You're going to sit in this pub and drink another fucking 15 pints of ale, or do you want to jump on this ship? We're going to go over to, like, I don't know, some bloke said he found this island the other side of the Atlantic. You want to come with me?" And someone's like, "Yeah, sure, sounds good." Like, because people are bored. There's nothing to do. Back in the day, there was no Netflix, there was nothing. So people were like, "Hey, we're just going to go like attack France for a bit." And people were like, "Yeah, count me out." I think there's just men need something to strive towards, and for a lot of people, especially in the military, that is war.
Men, everyone always likes to talk about the average living age, and men always die younger on average than women, and that's a part of the reason why. Not just about warfare, but there's something in the majority of men that you just want to push the envelope with stuff. Stupid things. Like we all, whether you served or not, we could all remember times where we were just fucking around and almost killed someone, whether it be driving like an idiot or playing with things that go boom in the backyard and climbing a tree and jumping off of something. And
yeah, exactly, man. I'd seen that right when the Ukraine-Russia war kicked off. There was I've seen loads of TikToks, and it was like it was men being like, "My biological clock is ticking. I need to go die in a European war." I was like, I don't know if this is some really good propaganda from Ukraine to get foreign volunteers, but yeah, it's kind of true. You know, women have a biological clock for having kids, and men have a biological clock for dying in some war.
LSR, that is a universal. I think every military has almost that exact thing. For us, it was just hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Or a classic one that's probably one that you might have heard, Alex. Great coats on, great coats off. Great coats on, great coats off. You've heard that one too, yeah.
Yeah, just
yeah.
I don't miss that. Just non-stop. Hurry up, wait,
No.
hurry up, wait, hurry up, wait. Start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Yeah, I just
Fubar.
Yeah.
Or and snafu. Situation normal, all fucked up.
Yeah.
But yeah. So going back to your time, so what was your progression like in how long were you at basic, and what was it like after you got out of basic training and were in the unit? And
so my basic training was like 26 weeks, I think.
So half a year, same as us, 3 months of recruit and then 3 months specialist training in infantry.
Yeah, so it's like, but it's all held in one place. I think if you join and you have a trade, you do like 11 or 14 weeks somewhere else, and then you'll go on to your trade. But obviously, because I was infantry, my whole 26 weeks was over. Like this first, it was in one location, and you kind of just progress through and you learn new skills and you get more and more competent. But I won't lie to you, I was fucking useless in training. I didn't know what I was doing. I was not very good.
What was your fitness like? Were you fit enough?
Yeah, fitness was not really, I was never the fittest, don't get me wrong. There's some phenomenal freaks in the military.
Absolutely.
I was just always a plodder, I would just plod along. I didn't really enjoy running. I was more like a plodder, I'd just stick it on and I'll go at an all right pace. I was not especially fast, I wasn't especially slow. I wasn't super strong, just a middle of the pack, generic sort of grey man. Certainly found sort of runs a lot harder than maybe like some of the weighted stuff we would do, but yeah, it was never really, some people love the fitness in the military. I didn't. For me, it was a tool for a job, I had to be
I still remember that conversation where someone's was it Feral, like, why don't you guys go hiking? And you and I were both kind of like,
fuck that,
fucking did that for years. I'm not fucking doing that for fun now. No,
it's not happening.
But no, it's a big thing. The fitness side of it. Like I joined, and I signed up early in my final year of high school, and I had the pamphlets and all the rest of it, and thought I was doing really good and my running and chin ups, but I wasn't doing chin ups properly, mate. I wasn't doing full arm stretch.
Yeah.
I was only going down to there. I got to basic training. I could not do one chin up. Can you imagine what that basic training was like for me, brother?
Yeah, I bet it was great. I bet you got really good at pull-ups by the end of it. They were like, you need to bang out 10 before you're even eating. And you're like, oh, fair enough.
Well, I wasn't a bit like you, mate. I wasn't a fitness nut. I think the most I ever got to was being able to do 12. I just didn't have the body type for it. But sit-ups, I could do 100 without breaking a sweat. And that was from day one. It was just something that I was strong at. And then I ended up with an abdominal hernia. So go figure on that one. But running, I was average. Pack marching, I was a fucking machine, mate. The guys couldn't work it out. They couldn't work out how I could just march and march and march at, that kind of shuffle march you do where you're not running. And I could just do that almost indefinitely. Like platoon commanders would pick me for orienteering exercises in platoon comps, just because they knew that I'd be able to keep up with them and I was good at navigation as well. But chuck me on a 5K run, and I was averaging around the 20-minute mark, which, you know yourself, that's not great, but it's not bad. But, the Jets are doing 15, 16 to 18. 18 minutes was the benchmark for the top score. The closest I ever got to that was 18 minutes, 40 seconds, and that was at Kapuka.
So how far was that, sorry?
5 kilometers, 5K run.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so we used the test I enjoyed the most was the 2 miler with 25 kilo weapon kit, boots. It was 2 miler. I enjoyed that one. That was a good one. That was you had to do that in 18 minutes for a pass or 16 minutes for highly competent. But when I went on my sniper course, you have to get highly competent in all your fitness. You can't just get a pass, and I had to really train for that. I was not one of these people that would just breeze a highly competent in fitness, because there are people in it that will just breeze fitness, and you're like, and then they'll be sat there having a fag at the end of it, and I'm like, fucking, how have you done that, mate? You know. But I had to put in some miles to get highly competent for my sniper course. So yeah, it was. But that was the one I enjoyed the most, because it's just 2 miles. It's not that far. You can grizz 2 miles sprinting. You know, it's like, and I would get to the end and I'd fucking throw up. And I'd have snot all over my face, but I'd get in. You know what I mean, for the highly competent. But with the longer ones, they do suck, mate. They do suck.
The one thing I hated the most was the rope tower, because I've never had a massive amount of upper body strength, and they're high enough that if you fall, there's a good chance you could break something.
Yeah, sure,
and the amount of times you slide down and you end up with the rope burn because you weren't allowed to wear gloves or anything. And when you've got your rifle, your webbing, your boots on, your rifle, you've got it slung over your back as well. So if you fall, but it's a great exercise, because it's one of those fear of God things where it really helps you dig deep to see what you've got inside you. And nothing does that like the fear of pain and hurting yourself, does it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is a good motivator, but I also think that another one is being made to look like an idiot in front of your mates. And I think that is the number one motivator, especially for soldiers, because you get kind of like indoctrinated when you're in the military.
You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful you don't go too far with it, and then you're bordering into bastardization territory. But a good look at this fucking idiot is required.
Yeah, and I think you do get indoctrinated into this thing, and I think a lot of things you end up doing is because you don't want to look like either a coward or an idiot in front of your mates. Yeah. So I think there is a big thing about that. They really indoctrinate you that is the I say indoctrinate like it's a bad thing. It can be a bad thing. It can also be a very good thing, because you need people to do things that they would not normally do. So it does need to be there is a need for it. But yeah, I think the fear of pain, but also the fear of looking like an idiot or a coward in front of your mates drives a lot of people to do things they wouldn't normally do, because these are your best mates, and you wouldn't want to look like a liability in front of them. So
what was the worst thing that you ever got embarrassed in front of everyone over? Oh, you tell me, you show me yours and I'll tell you mine, and I guarantee mine will probably beat yours.
Well, I used to sleep naked. I didn't fucking ever wear boxers and that. So I used to sleep naked. And there's a section of training called sword training, or if you're in another unit, it's called bayonet training. But for historical reasons, within my unit, it was called a sword. And they wake you up at like 03 in the fucking morning. They flip everyone out of beds. They're screaming, they're shouting. They've got cam cream on. They've got all their kit on. And they basically, it's where you go out onto the field, you fix your bayonet, or as we called it, a sword, and you go and stab the dummies full of pig blood and what makes the grass grow, blood, all that sort of thing. What we're here to do, kill, that whole thing. But they start you at like 3 in the morning and get you proper worked up, and they thrash you in the block, and they're making you eat cold rations and stuff like that. They're spitting on you. They're making you crawl around. I used to sleep naked, so when everyone else got tipped out of bed, people would be in their boxers, some might have t-shirts on. I was bollock naked, and before I know it, I've got my respirator on and nothing else, and I'm running around the outside of our block, mate, in the snow with my dick shriveled to about this big, because it's like -3 in November in like just border of Scotland, and I'm running around in the snow with my dick out, and there's like people, because it goes on for hours, right? So it starts at like 3 in the morning, but by like 6 you're still going, you're still getting smashed. And I'm like running around, and there's people waking up to go to breakfast in other units, because it's a big camp. There's people in like the smoking shelter, and I'm like running past them naked with just this gas mask on. And they're like, what the fuck? So that was probably my most embarrassing, was like me running around with nothing on but a respirator.
Did you sleep naked again after that?
Yeah, fucking right, I did.
You are really into the cock and ball torture, literally. But okay, mine was really bad. And it was on active service. It was in Somalia. And were you ever a signaller?
Yeah, I did do some signals courses, but I was not a signaller, like a set signaller.
So you knew about the yellow pages and all the rest of it, the codes.
Yeah.
Yep. And there was 2 things you had to remember, and one was how to authenticate, and the other one was basically to work out which set of codes you were going to use. And I had just a blonde moment, and I could not remember for the life of me how to authenticate. And I knew that when I joined the battalion net, I was going to have to authenticate. And I had been a platoon SIG for months at this stage in country, and I'd also been a platoon SIG for a year beforehand. But for whatever reason, that day I just couldn't remember. I couldn't remember whether it was up and across or down and across or whatever, whichever way it was. So before we were about to go out on patrol as well, so I quickly grabbed my rifle, headed over to the company SIG, Luttrell. I still remember him, and I said, "Mate, I need your help." And I put my rifle down on the table in front of me, and I was like, "I can't remember how to authenticate." And mate, he fucking give it to me. Absolutely, you fucking Boyd, fuck, just the usual shit stirring. Yeah, give me a right bollocking. And I was so flustered already. I was like, just fucking tell me. And in the end, he told me. I said, thank you. Went back to the vehicle. Get in the vehicle. I'm playing with my radio. We're in one of those Land Rovers with the radio set up and that. And we drive off and we get to the green line, which is where you're allowed to finally put a magazine into your rifle because you're getting ready to leave the base. And I'm like, yep, magazine, rifle.
Oh, no.
I just left my rifle on the table back there. And I'm sitting in the back and I'm like, what is the one cardinal sin you could make as a soldier?
Yeah, don't leave your rifle anywhere. Never goes out of arm's reach.
Literally, the rule is arm's reach. You sleep, it's within arm's reach. You shit, it's within arm's reach. You have sex, it's within arm's reach. You are in the shower, everything, it is within arm's reach. And I left my fucking rifle behind. I had a pistol still, being a signaller. I got issued with a pistol. But I'm sitting there and I'm going, fuck. Now, to make matters worse, I was in the platoon sergeant's Land Rover. So it wasn't even like I just had a secco or something like that, mate. Look, yeah, whatever. I had to tell the platoon sergeant. And I'm like, Sarge, we need to go back. And he's like, why? We're about to leave. And I went, I left my rifle. And there was just silence. And he reversed, drove back. I get back. The company SIG is standing there, laughing his ass off, holding my rifle up, brings it over. And I'm like, you could have told me. And he goes, yeah, but it wouldn't have been this much fun. So we go out, we do the patrol, get back. And I'm sitting there all day. And I'm just, as you can imagine, it's a stressful thing to do. And I'm like, what's he going to do? Am I going to get charged? Am I going to whatever? And that night, platoon debrief, he told the entire fucking platoon. And he said, I had the choice of making you fill 1,000 sandbags or I could just embarrass you in front of the whole platoon. So I chose the latter. Bro, it was within fucking pinky reach of me for the rest of my career. It's just, as you said, it's one of those things. A good embarrassment. Some people might go, that's terrible. In a civilian world, yeah. But in the military world, no, it got the message through. Like, I never, ever made that mistake again. It was literally, I would get up and it'd be like, have I got my rifle? Oh, shit, my rifle's in my hand. But by the time we got to have our couple of days off in Mombasa in Kenya, bro, I had fucking postpartum fucking depression from not having my... I literally just, I felt like I was always without something because we obviously didn't take our rifles to Kenya. And I wasn't the only one, but everyone was the same. After you've been on exercise or operation and you've had that, just not having that, you always felt like whenever you got up, you were always checking your pockets because you were missing something. It was literally, like in Full Metal Jacket, where they give their rifles a name. We didn't have names for it, but that's how close you become to it, don't you?
Yeah, I remember coming back from ops and walking around fucking Tesco's or whatever supermarket it was and like having a fucking heart attack like in that split second because you're like, where the fuck's my weapon? And you're like, I haven't got it because you've been carrying it for 8 months. It's been with you for 8 fucking months. You get used to just making sure you've always fucking got it on you, and then you come home and it can just take a little bit of a time to readjust to what you've got. And I just push them around I remember pushing my trolley around Tesco's and just like having a heart attack thinking, oh fuck, where is it? But yeah, definitely it's a weird feeling. There's that saying in there in Jarhead where he says, a man will touch many things, but he'll always remember his rifle. And I think still to this day, I feel like my hands are missing something. I do feel like I miss carrying a weapon.
It feels natural. Like even to this day, when I go down the range with my young fella, and help him with cleaning his guns and that, there's a certain it sounds so pathetic when you say it, but you
Mm.
just feel complete when you've got one in your hands.
Yeah, it is. It is weird. I think it's just it becomes such a huge part of your identity. You know, I liken being in the military to being in prison. It's such a different way of life that, you know,
Yeah.
when you see people coming out of prison, they're often straight back in prison. You know, they're so conditioned to being in that environment that they can't really cope with the outside world. And
I love that from Ducks. That's gold. That's comedy gold. But yeah, so you've joined up, you've made it to your unit, and how long were you in before you started the sniper selection? Because it's not just something where they really, at least in Australia, it wasn't something you get tapped on the shoulder and said, "Would like you to become a sniper." Like here in Australia, you had to. It was almost like special forces. You have to request to join. They will approve whether they even want you to do the training course, and then there's a training course with a high failure rate.
Yeah, so kind of, but I was invited because I'd done a lot of work with the snipers beforehand,
Yep.
and I knew quite a lot of them, and they were like, "Hey, we think you should come and try out." So the normal route in is you do a in-house course where you are then a member of the platoon, and you'll then learn some more while you're in the platoon, and then you'll be sent away to badge, as we would call it. I don't know if that's the official term. I was always under the impression that badging was when you made it to SF, but they used to call it badging. But yeah, you would then go away.
Typical sniper fucking snobbery.
You would then get sent away to do the official course where you would then be officially qualified as a sniper. I never did the in-house one. I did something called Cameroon Patrol, which is a 64-kilometer long-range recce patrol.
I've heard of
it's
it.
an international competition. Yeah, they send teams from all around the world.
The Dog Cup is the team that Duke of Gloucester, we call it here in Australia, and the winning battalion gets to send their team to the Cambrian Patrol.
Nice.
The years that it's run.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
It's pretty fucking stinking. It's quite a hard competition. It's 64 kilometers. It takes you about 2 days. It's 2 days of just walking. You'll do a recce. You'll do all sorts of stands that test basic soldiering, calling artillery. There's an attack.
And you did that.
So I did that. Yeah. I did.
That's impressive, brother.
Patrol, and I did it with a lot of the team from snipers. A lot of the people. Yeah, we got gold, so we came top. We won the patrol. We won the whole competition. So. We got gold, and obviously
home ground advantage rigged.
Yeah, fair one. A lot of the people within our team were from the sniper platoon and recce. So when I finished it and we got gold, they said, "Hey, look, the official sniper course is happening in September, and I think this was like August. Would you like to try out for it?" I said, "Fucking hell yeah, sign me up." So I then went on. I didn't do the in-house course, so I was like starting day one, no knowledge of sniping, whereas some of the lads had already been in a platoon for a year and had known some things. I was like fresh, so I went away and did that. I think it was like 50, 60 people on our course, and that was kind of how I ended up going for sniper platoon.
And what did you think of? So it was a sniper platoon in your battalion.
Platoon. Yeah, sniper platoon. So within the
we only had we call it the sniper cell, and they were under the control of the commanding officer.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not a big platoon. It's very small, but it is called sniper platoon. I think there was, I'm trying to think now, 4 sniper pairs, sniper platoon sergeant, and a sniper color sergeant, and that would be it. So like a very small platoon. So not a full 20, 30 man or whatever the size of platoon is normally, but yeah, much smaller. And yeah,
and what
same
were
detail.
The snipers used for? What was the role of the snipers? Like I know how we use them in Australia, but how did you guys use? How were you utilised?
So the official job of the sniper is to locate, observe, and destroy key enemy personnel and equipment through indirect and precision direct fire. So, but if effectively that just means you're the colonel's eyes and ears with the ability to neutralize high value targets if needed, and that's kind of your role. You're sent out to understand the battle space and provide the colonel with a much bigger eyes-on understanding of what's actually happening. He can look at a map and he can listen to reports, but it's a lot easier if you've got a sniper pair sat there saying, well, I'm looking at this coming down this route and they're heading towards this location, or I'm seeing this size of enemy in this position. And that's kind of what we're doing. And then he can say, oh,
because it's a lot of that's what I was hoping to hear. It's a lot of intelligence gathering. It's not just about crosshairs on target, click, boom, target eliminated. It's often just staring at something, and you really don't get the choice to make the decision to pull the trigger.
No, not at all. No. Yeah, a lot of the time it is just finding and fixing enemy positions, gathering strength sizes and stuff like that. Obviously, a sniper can always operate up to the level of capability they've got. So if you're working at a battle group level where you've got artillery at your disposal, you can push like 24 kilometers ahead of the rest of the battle group if you're working with mortars. Because if you ever get in that position where you need to extract, they can at least fire into you to.
You loved working with mortars the most, didn't you?
I admit, I know I give mortars a lot of shit. I fucking love mortars. If I could go back, I think I probably would have been. I would have done some more stuff with mortars because they are fucking. When you see them come in, it is so fucking cool. You can just wipe out grid scares. It is so fucking cool. You're just like, give them the grid squares. This is my position. This is the bearing. This is how far I am. Walk it in. And then they're just like, yep, sweet. Here you go. And then the next thing you know, the thing you're looking at is just gone. It's so fucking cool, man. It is so cool.
And it's like we did a lot of dog and pony shows, and you'd have the Vietnam vets there. And so I got so used to hearing it, but they'd come up and they'd say, we loved it when you guys were firing in support of us. We hated it when the enemy were firing at us. He said that mortars are just on a whole fucking different level of indirect fire support. It's scary as fuck.
Yeah, it's not nice being on the receiving end of it, that's for sure.
I was going to ask that, but that's kind of a little bit further down. But we are getting close to that point. But so you're in the sniper cell now. Did you do any deployments overseas while you were just a regular? How did you word it in your video? Just regular infantry?
Yeah, I did, mate. Yeah,
you didn't reply to my comments either, mate. You didn't reply to them.
I have, honestly, mate. I've been so fucking busy. I've probably not responded to millions.
I watched your Sniper Elite video, and I made fun of the way he's just a regular infantry. I was like, just a regular infantry, and then you go on to use a satchel charge for cover, and I'm like, yeah, this is why you need regular infantry around you, mate.
Look, but is it going to detonate if it gets hit? Probably not. It needs to detonate multiple different. It will be fine. We'll be fine. But I did. I went to Iraq very soon after joining my unit. I went over to Iraq.
Jeez, that must have been hard, mate.
No, it was a good deployment. I enjoyed it. It was fucking.
But being so green nice. And like I know myself. Once I finished specialist training, when I got to the battalion, it was like I didn't know shit because you have to relearn everything.
Mental.
And
I was fucking mental.
To go on a deployment so quickly after finishing basic, you must have. It must have been a very, very rapid learning curve for you.
Yeah, it was eye-opening, but a lot of the unit hadn't been on a deployment for a while, so a lot of people hadn't. The last one before that was Afghanistan, and so like maybe 2 years they hadn't been on deployment for. So it was good though. I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot, and it was a nice tour to get into. It wasn't like.
So what year was that?
2015, I think.
Yep.
So
but
it was
truly
nice.
Into the war on terror.
Yeah. So but it was nice. It was an easy tour. It wasn't bad. It was a nice tour to go on. I'm glad I went on that one first, rather than had I joined maybe 4 years earlier, and my first tour been in like fucking Helmand province with my mates getting their legs. But like that's a lot to have on your first deployment. My deployment was very easy, and it was nice because life is very different. There is a certain way of living when you're on ops, and it was nice to be able to learn that, where there's not fucking IEDs everywhere, and I haven't lost.
How long were you over there for?
It was 5 months. That deployment was.
And that's 5 months of how far was your rifle away from you?
Yeah, well, this one wasn't too bad because the rifles would go into a armory when we were on base, but we did have a pistol because we were on a base with the Americans, and I don't know if you're deployed with the Americans, but they fucking bring America with them. So it was like a city. It was fucking cool, mate. It was like a Burger King and a bar and all sorts. But so when we would go back to the home base,
never really got to do that, other than I got to see Diego Garcia on the way to Somalia, and that was just a bizarre fucking. slice of America in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And then they would have their mobile PX store come and visit us every couple of months or so while we were over there. And it's literally, how the fuck do they do that? We couldn't even keep soft drink and cigarettes coming over. The Americans have trucks driving around, and you're looking at the shit they sell out of the back of a truck, and you're like, what the fuck? I can't even get this shit in Australia.
Let alone I don't know how they manage it.
Yeah,
I don't know how they manage it, but yeah, it was. They
are
good.
logistics fucking experts. I'll give them that.
They are, mate. They are. I think they've just got so much money they don't care. Like they'll just keep sending shit. I remember when the Americans came over to train with us, we'd give them a 24-hour ration pack. And they'd eat it in like 10 minutes. And they'd be like, "When's the next one coming?" I'm like, that was for 24 hours, dude. And they'd be like, "Oh, we get them delivered like every 12." I'm like, "What?" But they've just got so many people and so much money. Like they'll send a 12-hour ration replen every 12 hours, and if it gets blown up on the way, they'll just fucking send another one. Whereas we're like, fuck, that's like 10% of our fucking logistics capability gone. They're like, nah, we got like another 5,000 of them trucks.
This is an interesting little side quest in the interview, but serving with the Americans, it is such an odd experience because you guys are like us. Like our gear is sacrosanct. We hoard it, we guard it, and it is, you have to keep everything accounted for. The day that we landed in Somalia, I'm standing on the docks, and there were Americans everywhere on the docks, and one of them comes up to me, and I still to this day don't know if he was trolling or not, but it wouldn't have even entered my thought to turn around and say he was looking at our styres because I think we were one of the first militaries in the world to adopt them outside of the Belgians, I think, but he was like, "Wow, that's one of the Mars Star or the Star rifles. I'll trade you my M16 and my Humvee." And I'm like, "The fuck? Hey, Sarge, he wants to give me his M16 and his Humvee for my Steyr. Boyd, you can't fucking give up your Steyr." And I'm like, "Sorry, mate, we can't." But we would have everyone come over and they'd want to trade rations, and we're like, "We can't because we don't know fucking what we've got." And then we ended up, our own government couldn't even keep us supplied with Australian rations. The Americans had to give us their rations, which was actually not that bad. They're kind of pretty cool, the American MREs.
They're pretty good, the MREs, yeah. They're good.
But they're on a whole different level to the rest of us, just with the amount of stuff they have, and seeing the Cobra gunships flying in the sky, and they just, they'll just throw shit away. And you're like, if I threw that away, I'd get fucking charged.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I know when I was in Afghanistan, I was put on for a little while. We were on the same base as the 75th Ranger Regiment, like chatting to those dudes. And there's some really good dudes, but there is more people in the 75th Ranger Regiment than there is in the entire British Army. And that's just one specialist unit of the American. I'm like, fuck, it's just so big and so well funded. Like we're just like trying to make do with scraps and stuff. And they're just like, I think they had a gym deployed, like flown out in cargo containers and put down for us. And we're all like doing push-ups and going for runs. And like, they're just getting like amazing gyms flown in for them. It's just crazy. Yeah.
We had to make weights out of concrete. We managed to get our hands on some concrete for the Pioneers and some metal bars, and we made our own weights because our army, our government would never send that sort of stuff over to us.
Never.
But yeah, it's a bit disheartening though, isn't it?
It is, but they get treated like shit.
Yeah,
compared to us, the Americans military gets from like their chain of command. It's ruthless. Like that's how we get treated in basic training.
Why do I waste my time listening to Joe Rogan when you sexy bastards keep me so interested? You are easily amused, LJ. But I'm glad you're enjoying it because this is something a bit different. I promise we are going to get to the gaming side of things soon. But it's about setting up the backdrop and just getting a bit of an understanding of Alex's life and time in the military and that. So you did your first tour, you came back, you then moved to the snipers after doing the Cambrian patrol. And then you deployed overseas in a different role to your first deployment.
Then I went to Afghanistan as a sniper, yeah.
And what rank were you at this stage? Still a digger?
A rifle. Yeah, still a rifleman. So my unit, they were called riflemen. There would be a private and another unit, but in my unit, they were riflemen. I didn't promote until the very end of my career. I should have been looking at sergeant by the time I left, and I didn't. I had no interest in promoting. I wanted to be a soldier, and when I got to a sniper platoon, I didn't want to promote, because as soon as you promote in sniper platoon, you then become the spotter. And I was like, well, I want to do the fucking shooting. I don't want to do the spotting, so I'm not promoting. But then by the time I ended up going to do my promotion course, my instructor on my promotion course had never been on deployment. And I'm like, well, I've fucking done too. So it was like, I didn't promote to the very end of my career. I think I was a lance corporal for a year before I got out. It didn't interest me. No interest in promoting. But it made me a better soldier
twice and demoted twice.
No, you're not a real lance corporal until you get demoted. That's what I was always told anyway.
So what was your second deployment like compared to the first?
Good, mate. It was good. It was fucking frustrating though, but it was good. This was at a time where I'm not sure how much we can go into it. I'll just give some contextual stuff. We were for most of the war in Afghanistan, the war had been with Al Qaeda and the Taliban. By the time I got to Afghanistan, they were starting to try and bring the Taliban to the table because they were more concerned with other threats like Islamic State and the Haqqani network. So there was a shift in who the British government saw, who NATO saw as the biggest threat and who they saw as potential allies. And I went at a time when they were start of trying to shift into becoming allies with the Taliban, which was obviously very frustrating for a lot of people, especially.
I can't imagine how hard it must have been just to know who was who. That's the biggest problem with deployments like Afghanistan, what we had in Somalia, the guys in Vietnam, is who's the enemy. Yeah, it's not like in the previous wars where they wore a certain uniform, looked a certain way. It was people just out there, and now you've got the politics of what group are they affiliated with? How am I meant to fucking tell this?
Yeah, it was confusing, but my job there was to kind of go out and understand who was who. And so we would go out and set up and watch and stuff like that. And we would meet with police chiefs and stuff like that. And I'll skip over the other stuff, but it was confusing, to say the least.
How heartbreaking was the way that Afghanistan finished up for you?
Wasn't so much. It wasn't really heartbreaking for me. It more pissed me off because one, anyone who'd ever been to Afghanistan could have told you this was going to happen. And two, I do think there comes a time and a place where you just need to fucking let them go on. The mission creep in Afghanistan will be talked about in decades to come of how not to conduct an operation. The operation in Afghanistan was to find Osama bin Laden and eliminate Al Qaeda. And it just grew fucking arms and legs into this 20-year campaign to restabilize the government. Like, it should have never have been that. It was always going to end this way. Anyone who'd ever been there would have told you this was going to happen. Yeah, so for me, it was frustrating, but unsurprising. But I was like, everybody saw this coming.
I always said they should have just done what they did the first time around. Back in the original Desert Storm in 1990, a massive shock and awe come in, a reminder of this is who we are, this is what we're capable of. We have got the target. The target is taken care of. We're going to leave now. We'll send you some money to help patch things up, but you don't want us to come back again. But instead, they stuck around and tried to play politics, and it just turned into this ongoing absolute debacle that saw the biggest aid package ever in military weapons fucking given to the Taliban, and they're flying around in Black Hawks and the M4s and fucking night sights and God knows what else that America just left. And it's terrible.
Yeah, and it really fucking annoys me when I look at the news and I see, and you go on stuff like Wikipedia and you see war in Afghanistan, loss, NATO, Taliban victory. I'm like, not what I fucking saw, mate. It's not what I fucking saw. I saw them getting wiped out daily. How many bad guys died compared to us? A fucking lot more. They were having to hide in Pakistan and come across the borders. They were recruiting in Chechnya mercenaries. We fucking wiped them out. And we just left because of stupid political decisions. If you'd have done exactly what we said, gone in there, wiped them out, and left, we'd have been fine. but they messed about and took this on, and now they're counting it as a loss. And I'm like, mate, I don't know if you can count it as a loss, mate, because there's a lot more of them dead than us.
It's the mission was obviously achieved in that they got Osama bin Laden, but for the people on the ground in Afghanistan, that's where my question was aimed at. Like, it must have been heartbreaking for the it's easy to pigeonhole a bunch of people like the Afghanis or the Iraqis as, Muslim extremists and all the rest of it. You've worked with them now, mate. You know they're not all like that. The majority of them are just good, innocent people, but sadly there's too much of a bad element. But the worst part with the evacuation from Afghanistan was almost like Vietnam all over again. All these people who'd worked with the Allies in trying to fight got abandoned. And it was a bit the same for us with Somalia. We had a lot of locals working with us trying to help make their country a better place. And then when we left, the French came in, and the French don't have the greatest track record in colonial countries. And the locals weren't happy about that, that we were leaving. And then after Black Hawk Down, the Allies all just abandoned the country. And all these people got left there to basically be torn apart by the fucking various warlords for betraying their country.
Yeah, no, it's sad, but like I said, NATO. When I say NATO, I mean more the US, because they pretty much run the show. They're amazing at winning wars. They're fucking not very good at nation building. It's like what did that guy, the guy who won the Medal of Honor, his speech? He's like, we're not very good at nation building, but if you want to go to war with us, someone else will raise your sons and daughters. And it's true. They're really good at just wiping out the enemy. But anytime any wars try to be fought,
provided they can maintain the appetite for it, and that's where they lose a lot. Is like it should be with any democracy, but that's why the first option is always better. Or just go in hard and fast and get out quick before it can become a political
shitstorm,
hockey puck that just gets hit around. And unfortunately, the men and women on the ground just do the dying while the politicians keep arguing, and the people back home start losing support. And I don't think we'll ever, in our lifetimes at least, see another treatment of veterans the way that the Vietnam vets were treated. But damn, it was getting pretty fucking close with the war on terror, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think probably every war from now on will be like that. Public and the government don't have the stomach for war anymore. But there's only one way to win a war, and that's a war of attrition. More of them die than you. That's the only way. Anytime you try and win any other type of victory, it goes wrong. There's a scene at the beginning of
the movie We Were Soldiers. If you've seen that, where they talk about the ambush of the French, and one of the Viet or the North Vietnamese army guys asks the Vietnamese commander, are we taking prisoners or are we killing them? And he said, kill them. If we kill them all, they won't come back. And that kind of ties into what you just said. It's brutal, and I know that might upset some people, but war isn't about being nice.
No, and that's why you shouldn't have war-hungry politicians, because it's not nice. It's not nice.
No.
And rather than having people that are happy to go to war all the time over everything, but then don't want you to fight a war the way it should be a last resort. But then the last resort should be allowed to be the last resort.
You've come back from Afghanistan. We're not going into what he did over there. We're not into the gory stuff with what we're trying to do here. What we've done is spend about the last hour just getting a bit of backstory of Alex. And now we're going to talk about the stuff that I really wanted to get to. And you're in the army and you decide, based on some argy-bargy that's happening with, I think you were saying about bonuses and stuff like that, you said, I need out. How old were you when you joined again? You joined straight out of school?
18.
18. How hard was it to be a civilian?
Pretty difficult. It took a while for me to notice it was a problem, because as soon as I left, I went straight to Ukraine, and then I was working with a lot of ex-soldiers, and it was like I hadn't really left. It was after I finished in Ukraine that I came home, and I didn't ever notice it, but the cracks definitely started to show.
Because you were married by this stage?
No, I did. I had a missus. We were engaged. I fucking get married as soon as I can afford it, but they cost a fortune. But yeah, and there were a lot of problems. I wouldn't say I had a drinking problem. I had more of I was lacking that fix, that adrenaline fix. I needed it. Whether it be going out drinking, fighting, whatever it was, I needed that fix that normal life wasn't giving me. I don't know whether I wouldn't say I've got, post-traumatic stress disorder or anything like that, but I needed that fix. I needed that high. I needed that excitement, and normal life just doesn't give it to you. And it's like I said before, it's because I was bored. I had nothing to work towards. I was making, good amount of money doing what I was doing, contracting, but I had nothing to work towards. I had no goal, nothing in mind. And my missus was like, my missus had said many times, she was like, I'm going to leave you if this doesn't change. My temper would just flip, out of nowhere. And yeah.
Do you know why that is?
I don't know, man. I think it's just like I think it's a case of being bored and needing that next hit, and I wasn't getting it, and I was getting bored, and I was dissatisfied with how my life was. And there is just a common theme in the military where you just need to be able to switch it on and then switch it off. And I think where I was bored, dissatisfied, and maybe like struggling a little bit, it was flicking on when it shouldn't have, over small, minute things. And, before you know it, I've punched my wing mirror off my car. I've put my fist through my telly, stuff like that. It was not nice, but it took a while to adjust for sure. But I never realized it at the time. I thought I was completely normal. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good to go. And it's only now when I look back, I think, fucking hell, I don't know how my missus put up with me like that, because that's not who I was.
I'm going to show you something. Let's hope that my computer can handle it, because what they do to us in the military is pretty insane.
Right. Okay. So I've programmed that button into you. Now I want you to start to think about your life in 3 cups of water. Pre-military, consider yourself a cup of water. In the bottom of your glass of water or your cup of water, there's a little bit of water in the bottom, which I call good stress. What is good stress?
When did you
Manage? What does it actually do? Get you motivated, get you out of bed, get you showered, dressed, get you breakfast, get you up and moving from being in bed. It isn't debilitating, it's not bad, it's not dangerous, it is just that little bit of stress. Now, on a daily basis, out of the environment in which you live, various stressors
Oh, has it died, is it?
occur, and they could be
It's not a Boydie stream unless I'm here by myself. Yeah. Oh, Boydie. Never change, mate.
Yeah, it looks like I've still got that terrible Aussie internet. So, okay, so basically what he's talking about there is the glasses model. And I'll send this video through to you so you can watch it in full later. But the Australian military, basically any military, they have to teach you skills that are just so antithetical to the average civilian. And that is to basically, the way that this guy in this video words it, because he also had the wives there watching this presentation with, and it was mostly all Vietnam vets. And he said, essentially what the army does to you is have to break your mindset so that you go from normal fight or flight, and most people will flight, won't they? They'll either, when you hit fight or flight, there's also a third option, freeze. And the majority of people will freeze or run. Soldiers can't afford to do either of those two options. There is only one option, and that is fight. Flight is only a tactical withdrawal. You never say retreat. Retreat is a bad word. It's a tactical withdrawal. But to get people to the point where flight or freeze is no longer an option, you need to rewire their brains. So that stress level thing, stress is what's required to get someone to go to fight mode. The more stressed you are, the more angry you become. That's why you see people hyping themselves up, raising the stress level before a fight and so on. But what you see happen is soldiers, they're great at turning us into this ability where instead of having that massive amount of area to handle life's normal stresses, soldiers are always operating at that higher level. And he said, back in the day, they used to help manage that with cigarettes and alcohol. You're nodding because you know where I'm going with it. But once you get out of the army, you've changed. And you can't undo that wiring. You think about how long it takes to change you into a warrior. And then when you're out, you're no longer a warrior. You're just a regular Joe. But you've still got all of this stuff locked away inside you. And you've got to now try to manage it. And it's fucking hard. And that's why you see yourself exploding over the stupidest fucking shit. So I don't like to call it post-traumatic stress disorder. I like to call it PMS. It's kind of my little funny joke as well, but it's post-military stress.
Yeah, I think there is an element of that. Like there is, I don't know. I feel like when I left, I was just so fucking angry all the time. The time I was so fucking angry about everything. And
you felt a bit betrayed as well by your country with the way they were going to not reward you the way they used to. I know.
Yeah, kind of. It wasn't ever really about that. I was never really annoyed at anything. I was just angry all the time. And there's a thing. I don't know if you know. Do you know Jocko, who runs the Jocko podcast?
Yeah.
And and he was saying one thing when he was in, he would speak to his missus or something, and maybe dinner wasn't very good. And she'd say, "How was that?" And he'd say, "This is shit. It's no good." And then he was like saying a good thing. He's like, he was saying that she's like, "I'm not a SEAL. You can't speak to me like that. I'm not a SEAL." And it's the same thing. It's like I would leave and I would expect things of my missus or normal people I'd run into to expect to be able to, like, I could call somebody a fucking prick and not really be that annoyed with them. But outside, that's like, they must feel like they've done something really wrong. Whereas I could be like, "You are a useless fucking prick," to somebody, and then they would be like, "Oh my God, what the fuck have I done wrong?" And I'm like, they might have just got something slightly wrong. But that's just normal. And it took a long time to come to be like, this is not how normal people interact with each other. If somebody forgets something, you can't fucking swear at them and call them a useless fucking prick.
The big one for me with you really hit something with me when you said about, the missus said to you that I'm out of here if this doesn't change. I got the same sort of ultimatum about 2007 for my missus. And my thing was, and it's tied into this, explosive outbursts of anger, and then I'm back to normal again. And the first time it ever happened, I still remember it vividly. A guy cut me off or something like that, bit of road rage, and I exploded, honking the horn, swearing, and then I turned around and I was like, "Anyway, where were we?" And in the conversation, and she's fucking halfway out the car door, mate, and she's looking at me like I'm batshit crazy insane. And where it's important to have this conversation with people is, to us, it's perfectly normal. And we look at the people around us, the civilians who've never served, who've never gone through the, frankly, brainwashing and indoctrination that we went through, and we look at them as if they're useless and pathetic and all the rest of it. They're not. They're just normal, average, everyday people. We're the broken ones, but we're not broken in a bad way. We're just different because that's what our country needed us to be. But
Yeah.
our governments and our militaries are shit at turning us back into civilians. And one of the big things for me was after watching that video, I've sent it through to you. Maybe sit down and watch it with the missus, mate. She'll sit there and go, I fucking told you. I fucking told you. This is so true. And it's great for
probably.
self-awareness. But when I discovered gaming was a big thing for me, like you said, part of the reason why you were doing jobs like in the Ukraine and that was you needed that fix. For me, it's kind of ironic how gaming gives me a bit of that fix.
Yeah, definitely, dude. It definitely gives me that fix. You know, it gives me I don't need to go to fucking war anymore. You know, I need that. I need that. You need to be able to take a step back. Excuse me. You know, I got some great advice from a guy who'd been doing contracting for many years when I was in Ukraine, and he told me it's no good being the richest man in the graveyard. You know, you can bounce around all these jobs all you want, making as much money as you want, but it's no good if you're dead, mate. And it really stuck with me. And I do get my fix from gaming. That is my outlet. You know, I don't need the flashy lights and the big yellow numbers from you know, the Call of Duties and stuff. I get my fix from you know, DayZ, the small things, playing a game, you know, getting in a fight, you're outnumbered, you come out on top, and then you've got to spend the next 30 minutes finding a new coat, patching yourself up, finding that new plate carrier. You know, it's like that for me that's my fix. That's my overcoming that challenge. That's where I get my buzz from now. And it might sound a little weird, I guess, but it does help. It does help. And especially games like, you know, Armor as well, where I get to relive all the good bits of the military without having to the bullshit,
without the suck, without the suck.
To leave my family. I get to do the good shit. There's you can't tell me there's any fucking difference between doing a you know, a doctrinally accurate assault on a building in Armor than there is in real life. It's the same buzz, it's the same thought process, it's the same mindset, it's the same
you just get to press do over.
Just get
at the end of it. That's about the only difference. But yeah, it's insane how games like as you said, you know, the cannon fodder sort of games they're okay, but there's nothing quite for the thrill of being on a PvP server. And you know, our mate Vigilante, there's that video he's got of his where it's, you know, it only goes for about 3 to 4 minutes, and he's in Zelenogorsk at nighttime, and you just see a little shadow in the distance. And he's, you know, he said, I barely noticed it. Thankfully, I was recording at the time, and I thought I saw someone, and I just waited and I waited. And he said, my heart was in my throat, sort of thing. And in a game like Call of Duty, you see something and you run at it because you just want to kill it and shoot it. But DayZ, it's the fact that it's as close to the real thing as a game can get, in that if you fuck it, it's all over. You're back to the coast. You got to start again with nothing, just your rag and a chem stick, and you've lost it all. So there is that thrill. And you know, it's why a lot of people would say to me, you know, why don't you ever really focus on your PvP skills? And I said, so I don't want to be that good at the game. I don't have that fear anymore. I always want to be the fear. And it's great to have those little bit of skills. You know, tactically, I've usually got it over someone. My motor skills are just shit when it comes to being in the fights. But there's a certain something about these BI games and games like Squad and that, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think DayZ is definitely the one that puts you. You lose so much when you go for a fight. You risk it all. And
there's even Armor. If you've got points left, you just go and start it.
Yeah, and even in Armor, but DayZ more than anything. You know, I did a video not that long ago on DayZ, and I had a lot of. It was about drawing some sniper fire, and I ran across the field. I think it was in Pistoshka, and I was down by the well in Pistoshka. I'm pretty sure it's Pistoshka, and then there's the graveyard to the east. Is that right? Is that Pistoshka? I'm sure it is.
I think so. Yeah.
And anyway, I was with somebody, and they'd been killed by a sniper in that tree line that sits above Pistoshka, and I ran from the well to the graveyard to try and draw some sniper fire. And I had comments saying, well, would you really do that in real life? You know, you're just risking it in DayZ. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you would. Anything you do in DayZ that is a risk in real life, but you have to push through these risks, and the reward is, you know, you either come out on top or you don't. It's just a big game. It's the most competitive game you can play. War, you know, you either win it all or you lose it all. And I think DayZ is the only one that can quite capture the risk versus reward thing, which is the thing I've gone on a lot about in my sniper tactics videos, is risk versus reward. You know, are you going to take a shot? What happens if you miss? What do you stand to lose, and what do you stand to gain? If you hit somebody and you kill them, you know, it's risk
funny.
versus
It's
reward.
funny just hearing you say risk versus reward. I used to chat with Murray mate quite a bit, and I would always explain to him, and it's something that I've said it so many times, but it is. Everything is a risk analysis, risk versus reward. What is the risk to me doing this, and what is the reward? Does the reward outweigh the risk enough to make it worthwhile? If it doesn't, it's a stupid move. But it's, you know, about doing those tactical appraisals of the situation and working out everything in DayZ is a risk. Stopping to drink at a well. Yeah. Yep. So you've got to plan it,
and that's why the thing that what I like to share about these tactics and stuff, and a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm already doing this, and I'm like, yeah, but you got to remember, like, tactics and what you do in game, you may have took 500 hours to learn this tactic. This tactic was learned through people dying. You know, these things are, and they're not you know, every time somebody dies doing something and then somebody doesn't die doing it slightly different, well, that becomes a tactic now. You go, well, it worked this way. And they're not a foolproof plan. You can't implement tactics that will work every single time. They're just a kind of set of guidelines for you to tweak and move to help you with stressful situations with multiple variables. You know, I'm going to fill up at a well. I've been shot at by a sniper. What's my move? You could run around and just try and have a look and find him. You're probably going to get shot. Or you can apply some basic tactics, and they might work, they might not, but they'll give you a guideline of what to do in a very stressful situation that have a higher chance of you having a successful outcome than just winging it, which will probably end up with you being killed unless you're lucky. And we don't like to leave things to luck. So that's kind of the way I see tactics. And you know, sometimes you get negative comments and you're like, well, this isn't going to work. I'm like, dude, it's never always going to work. You know, you need to have
I like this from Mark Matthews over there on Facebook. In summary, the risk versus reward of running in a field to draw out a sniper's position in DayZ depends on various factors, including your own abilities, the sniper's skill, and the terrain. It's essential to assess the situation carefully and choose a safe approach to increase your chances of success. Yeah, and you know, just simple little things like, it's not just a case of, right, I'm going for it, and then you're like, where do I go? That's all shit you need to have planned out beforehand. You need to have a bailout, you know, preferably something mid. If you're getting too much fire, maybe a hay bale or a tree or a low wall or something you can get behind, and you know that your team is in a position where they can capitalize on your risk, so that it might not be you getting the reward, it might be them. So yeah, there's so much to it. It's such a, it sounds easy when you just say risk versus reward, but it's not that simple. And the people like yourself have got years of real life training that correlates into, and I think that's part of the attraction with a game like DayZ as well. In that, you know, I still remember, I've said this story many a time, but the very first time I played Operation Flashpoint, the Codemasters version on the Xbox 360, I'd almost forgotten most of my stuff. Because I was just used to playing Call of Duties and, you know, just run, gun, you know, a little bit here and there, maybe a bit of take cover. And then I started playing this Operation Flashpoint and I'm dead. Wait, what? Okay. Back to here again. Dead again. Wait, what? What's going on here? And then it was like, this is insanely fucking difficult. Maybe I should try some of the shit I used to do. Holy shit, I finished the mission. Holy shit. Yeah. This is awesome. I fucking love this. And it's insane that a video game can give us the fix of what we used to do IRL.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I think it's that the reward is you get to keep playing. You're not back at the coast. That's your reward. And I think that is, I don't know, maybe it resonates with military people, first responders. You know, it does seem to have this big draw to those people where the reward is you get to keep going. Because if you fuck it up in real life, you don't. And the same in DayZ. If you fuck it up in DayZ, you're back at the coast. You don't get to keep going. So yeah, definitely, it definitely has that draw, and I'm not sure why. Maybe someone could do a study. Someone a lot smarter than us could do a study as to why DayZ attracts so many.
What made you want to do content for DayZ?
I liked teaching. I liked teaching people new things, and I picked up DayZ, and I think I only maybe had like 50 or 100 hours when I made my first video, and I was like, this is kind of like, I was like, some people should know this, because I saw people doing a lot of stupid things that you wouldn't do, and I was doing all right, and I didn't really know the game that well. So I was like, hey, I'm quite new to DayZ, but these are some things that you could do, which would make you a little bit better. See you later, dude. That would put you maybe a little bit ahead of some people, and people really enjoyed it. And the first episode was so simple. It was stuff like, don't skyline yourself. Like, if you're walking along a hill, just drop down the side of the hill. You're not going to be skylined anymore.
Because you did the Why Things Are Seen as well, didn't you?
Why Things Are Seen, stuff like
that was my first ever teaching video, and I don't have the editing skills or the patience and that. But yeah, it's such a good one that correlates. And again, it blew my mind that the 5 S's and an M, as it was for us, shape, shadow, surface, silhouette, spacing, and movement, correlated to a fucking video game. It blew my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. And I tried to, I don't know. I do enjoy teaching. I would always like teaching lessons and stuff when I was in the military, helping people out, and I was quite good at it. And then I enjoyed playing DayZ, and it was just good. I really enjoyed showing people new things, and the best bit about me was there was a really positive feedback loop. I would tell people some tactics, and then they'd be in my next video saying, "Oh, dude, I used this one and it really worked for me." And it's like, well, that's a good feeling, because not only am I enjoying myself, but people are getting some benefit from it. They're really enjoying the things I'm teaching them, and they are working. So it's like a constant positive feedback loop of the stuff I'm telling them, I'm enjoying telling them, it's working. They're having a better game. I'll tell them more stuff, working, and it was just it was a nice feedback loop. And that's kind of how I fell into it.
It's really a good niche to get into as well. Like Vigilante Gamer doesn't have the most subs in the world, but his subs are the most loyal to him with his content. And you're getting that same sort of rep, although you're doing a lot more gameplay stuff as well. But it's a great thing to do, to be able to teach people stuff that's not just about what the meta is. This is not having to go at Wobo. Everyone knows how much I love Wobo, but Wobo does the more technical aspects. How does penetrations work and cycle rates and all the rest of it. But there's still something for people to be able to say, yep, regardless of how good the M4 is versus the Sire or whatever, all of that is only inconsequential almost to these are the core things, knowing how to analyze, knowing how to clear a room and that sort of stuff. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think meta's changed, and I'm not good enough. I'm not a good enough player to be the best. I'm never going to fucking stand against a smoke or a taupe, or these people are going to wipe the floor with me most of the time, unless I use some tactics and they get sloppy. They're so good at the game. I'm not going to be able to stand against these people unless I really balance the scales in my favor, which I feel like my tactics were helping people do. They were rebalancing that scale. I might not be the best player in the world, but I've used a few of these tactics, and now this person who's just sort of a more mechanical Chad, well, now the scales are more tipped this way, and I've actually got the advantage because I've put in some things. I've positioned myself better. I've moved around. I've not skylined, so he doesn't know where I've gone. I've thought about things a bit better. I've thought about my positioning. And whereas this guy's just playing off pure skill, it's now a lot, the scales are more balanced. So, and meta's always changed. There's always going to be one gun that's better, then they're different, and then B, I might change it. Now this one's better and this one's better. Whereas these are core fundamental skills that you can implement into your game that will always, they won't change. They won't change. They haven't changed for hundreds of years. They will not change.
That's part of why DayZ is such a great game. Regardless of any unintended game features, bugs, and all the rest of it, it's a game where, you can still get one-shotted by a Mosin if you're unlucky or something like that, or you just do something stupid. But if you've got patience and a little bit of tactical nous, you can level the playing field against someone like a Smoke or a Taupe just by, admittedly with those two, it's harder because they're
also quite tactical
players
as well. Yeah, they're not. I meant more just the mechanical. They are just amazing.
But it's a game that allows even your mid-tier, average, and sometimes even poor PvPers like myself to still stand a chance through use of a bit of superior grey matter. One of my favorite DayZ content creators is Super FT LOL, and he's got a emote in his chat for flank because he does the biggest fucking flanks ever. But the amount of times it pays off for him where he fucks off around a hill and comes back in over the other fucking side of where he last was. And it might be 5 minutes of running, but how many times have you sat there yourself after you've been shot at for 5 minutes in the same position? Probably not so much for you because you know to always keep on moving in that. But a lot of people just sit there. They're too scared to move.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of. I think DayZ is really good because it gives you the kind of feeling of like that you get when you're in the military, and if you're in a bad position or you're in a stressful position that's dangerous, a lot of human instinct is to just sit there and fucking wait for it to go away, and it won't. And you have to get up and you have to change the situation you're in. And I think DayZ does that quite well. If you sit there and you wait for the problem to go away, you think, oh, I'm just going to sit here and I'll wait and they'll leave me alone. That's not going to happen. You will get killed. And you need to be able to not suck it up, but you need to grab your balls and you need to fucking implement a plan and you need to initiate that plan because it will pay off in the end. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, but it will. It's a lot better of a chance than just sitting there. Like that example I gave with Pistoshka, my mate was killed. I could have just sat behind the wall and wait for him to push me, or I could have, but I didn't. I made a plan. He drew his fire. I knew where he was, made my way up there, flanked all the way around, came through the tree line, cleared the tree line, found him, killed him. And there's the result, because he did the same thing. He didn't move. He knew I was down in Pistoshka and he knew I was running around. So he was just holding there in that tree line thinking it's all going to be fine and dandy. But because you put in a plan and implemented it, it paid off. And I think it's a unique game for sure.
Mark there on Facebook doing the smart man explanation of basically everything we've been saying. DayZ attracts players due to its intense survival mechanics, open world freedom, and the thrill of player interactions. The game's emphasis on realism and unpredictability creates unique experiences each session, fostering a strong. This almost sounds like a bloody ChatGPT answer, doesn't it? But it's right though. Many AAA games, they're scripted or linear, just don't have that. But it's great that it's able to appeal to people like us. And I would love to see more veterans. You've got to be careful because gaming can be addictive. But I would love to see more veterans playing it. And, you sent me through a report before about how doctors. Let me see if I can find that again. It was an article from The Guardian, folks. I'll put it in chat for everyone. But I won't bring the stream up because I don't want to lose the connection again. But basically, they were doing a survey of surgeons and found a direct link between the skill at video gaming and skill at keyhole or laparoscopic surgery. Young surgeons who spent at least 3 hours a week playing video games in the past made 37% fewer errors, were 27% faster, and scored 42% better overall than surgeons who had never played a video game at all. That's just insane, those sorts of figures. That it's an old article. It's 17 years old. But video games, whenever there's a shooting or something like that or a kid who does bad shit, they always try to tie it to video games.
I think video games are better than movies. You don't get anything out of a violent movie. You can get lots of things out of a violent video game. Lots of things. You can get skills. I would wager now that soldiers who join the military now, having grown up playing video games, are at a better start standard than soldiers who joined in the 1900s because they understand things that people wouldn't have been.
Imagine saying that in your local veterans club, mate. Oh, fucking bullshit. Kids these days, they're full of shit. I hate hearing that. Soldiers these days and all the rest of it.
Bollocks.
Everyone used to say that about you too when you were a young soldier. The old crusties before you said it. It's something that will keep on happening until people push back against it.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit. People understand things more now. Unless you were like a game hunter or something before you joined in the 1900s, you would have no idea about where to position yourself. Maybe I won't walk through a doorway while I'm reloading my weapon, stuff like that. But whereas people who play video games now, they know a lot of these things that have to be instilled already. I'm going to put a new weapon in my magazine. I'm not going to run through the open while I do it. I'm going to get behind some cover. You know, they understand the difference between cover and concealment. You know, this bush can be shot through. It's not cover. They can understand things like, maybe before I go in this building, I should put a new magazine on my weapon. This is not things people would have known before video games, but now I think they're a great tool. They make you stop and think about things in stressful situations. They make you better tactically. They improve your reflexability. They stress test you. I think they're a fantastic tool, and they replicate things where you can learn. Is it Armor Global? Is that the armor that they sell to the military? Armor Global?
That's the Bohemia military branch, but yeah.
Yeah, so and you can.
They
train
sold that off. It's owned by
logistics.
Boeing now.
Oh, is it? Oh God, probably fall out of the sky then. But you can learn these new things, and you can implement things that you would not be able to do without millions and millions and millions of pounds running a large scale operational exercise. You can learn it now at a computer, you know, and it doesn't take away, so long as you're still maintaining those core skills of robustness and physical fitness and actual hands-on skills. There is nothing that playing video games will take away from that. Nothing. You will only gain from it, in my opinion. But what the fuck do I know? I'm just some fucking grunt who's made a few YouTube videos, but I'm sure there's someone out there who's got.
Do any of your former army mates know you do this now?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. A few people do. I didn't ever really tell people because I think things just aren't cool until you're doing them, until you've done it. You know, things just aren't really cool. If you tell, like, if I told somebody, hey, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel, they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? Whereas now when I tell people, I'm like, hey, I spend most of my time making YouTube videos now. And they're like, oh, how many subscribers do you have? I'm like, well, I'm just shy of 30,000 now. People are like, oh, cool. Things like that.
You can fill a footy stadium with that.
Yeah, people don't really appreciate things until you've done them, if that makes sense. Like, even anything. People are like, I'm going to be an actor. People are like, yeah, all right, mate. But when people are like, oh, yeah, I'm in this movie coming out, they're like, oh, sweet. But they would not have the same reaction. People know about it now. I've never kept it a secret or anything, but
what are your comments on your videos like? Because you've never hidden the fact that you're a former UK military sniper. Do you ever get any dickheads in your comments in that?
Yeah, I get dickheads, but it doesn't bother me. I think if you are going to put yourself out there as in any way, whether it be any sort of public figure on a public forum like YouTube is, you will be open to criticism, and you should take that criticism as it is. I had somebody came on my last armor video I made, real sniper tactics on armor, and he tore me apart. He said, you're fucking positioning with shit. And someone was like, hey, you can't fucking speak to him like that. And I was like, dude, chill, it's fine. You know, this guy who commented was like, I don't play games, but I was a former sniper. And I was like, hey, everything you said, completely valid, dude. I've just got to tweak some of these things to make them work in games. It's about teaching people the principles of why we do things.
That's a big thing, because not everything crosses over, does it?
It's more, and it's more like the distances and stuff like that. You know, I was maybe 400 meters away when in reality I'd be like 900 and stuff like that. He's like, you're way too close. I'm like, I get what you're saying, dude, but this is just a game. It doesn't.
And also, mate, do you understand about the rendering in of bushes and that? If I was too far away, there wouldn't be a bush around me, and I'd just be a blob there. So these are things that he wouldn't have understood.
Yeah, sure.
Not being a gamer.
And I think, you know, I'm a big believer that if you're going to put yourself out there, you need to be open to criticism. And if someone says something bad about you, they might not always be wrong. You know, they might not always be wrong.
Matt Z, you're in chat. You're in chat. I've seen you a few times. Remember that. People are always going to criticize, mate. They're going to criticize you especially.
Don't matter what you do.
You just got to ignore it, mate. Just whatever. You know, go about doing you. Do you, boo. Let the others rant and all the rest of it. But provided your intentions are good, not going to be an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
Exactly. If you're going to put yourself out there, you've got to be open to it.
Exactly. Mate, what have you got planned for the future? I know you are talking about maybe doing a charity stream sometime soon.
Yeah, so I think when we hit 30,000 subscribers, which should probably be in the next month or so, I think I'm going to do a 24-hour live stream for raise money for Help for Heroes. My longest live stream, I think, before this was 8, so it'd be quite a slog. But I want to do, I think when you've got, I don't want to say a big voice, that just sounds stupid and big-headed, because I've not. But I think when you've got a sort of medium-sized following like I have, I think you should do some good with it. And I think it would be a great way to give back to something that has not necessarily helped me, but it's definitely helped people I know. And I think it would be a good cause to do it for, you know. I think charity events are always really good. I just need to find a way to do it logistical wise, but I'm sure LSR the Grey can fucking help me out. He's pretty good at this stuff. So yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. We're gonna try and raise some money for Help for Heroes. I'll do a 24-hour stream and we'll raise some money. I think it'll be a nice milestone. My subscribers will enjoy it because they get 24 hours of me waffling on in their ear, and also we'll raise money for a good cause.
Now, I've just shared the link in chat for everyone, and I'll put it into the description of the video once I've edited it and done the subtitles and everything. But the charity that Alex is going to be doing it for is called Help for Heroes. They're a UK-based veterans charity. You can make a monthly or a single donation on their website there. But yeah, you know, you got to pick something. It'd be great if we could donate to everything, but Alex is UK based, so obviously he's going with a UK one. If you want to do something for your own, there's plenty of other charities out there. My ones are Wounded Heroes here in Australia, and they're who I like because, you know, the part of what they do, Alex, that I like is they don't rely on government funding. So because of that, they can do things that the government-funded mobs aren't allowed to do, such as, you know, have you ever been a smoker, Alex?
Yeah, I smoked for years.
Yep. When you're down and out and destitute and penniless and all the rest of it, how good would it be if someone came up and said, mate, you look like you're having a bad day, here's a pack of smokes?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Government-funded agencies can't do that because smoking's bad and all the rest of it. Whereas Wounded Heroes, because they operate outside of the government funding and just rely on donations and that, they could do that. They could go and take a guy to a pub and buy him a beer and just sit down with him and just hear him.
That's good.
Yeah, that's bloody amazing that they do that sort of stuff. But yeah, Alex, I think we pretty much covered everything. Probably the last thing I want to quickly touch on is, guys, don't be afraid to be a man. It's something that Alex and I have chatted about a bit, and you know, if you're a white male these days, you're almost public enemy number one. But now more than ever, we need men to step up and be men. And you know, just that doesn't mean being you know, an Andrew Tate style toxic fucking piece of shit who hates women and all the rest of it. But how do you sum it up, Alex?
I just think there's I think there's a lot of men, or maybe boys, maybe you've worked out by the time you're a man, who have not got a lot of direction in life and they don't really know where they're going. And I think a lot can be said for just being the best at whatever you do. It will give you so much pride and so much direction in life. It doesn't matter what you do. And this is what was taught to me in training as well. It's cool to be the best at what you do. Like, it is cool. It doesn't matter if you're the bus driver, if you're a bus driver or a bin man or a brain surgeon. If you are the best bin man in the world, that is fucking cool. If you are the best brain surgeon in the world, that is fucking cool.
And you don't have to be the best, but if you know that you're doing the very best you can at what you're doing, that is not as good, but it is still good, and you should be proud of that. If you just give it 100%.
Yeah, pour yourself into your stuff, because I think a lot of lads, especially in this world, they're fucking bored. And they don't have the opportunities that they want.
And there's no wars for them to fight as well.
There's no fucking wars for them to fight. But as you've seen, mate, with Ukraine and Russia, there's a lot of bored people who've never served in the military. And they're like, hey, big old war going on in Ukraine. Who wants to join? And they're leaving. They're going and fighting. It showed you there's bored and frustration. I think someone else said it in chat, like a rat in a cage. You just end up gnawing at yourself. Self-destructive behavior. And I'm not saying that going and fighting in someone else's war is not self-destructive. It's pretty self-destructive, but you kind of get where I'm going at, that men need an outlet and a passion and a focus and a drive. And, you know, I think pouring yourself into something and being the best you can do, whatever it is, just trying to be the best you can be and being the best in that field will help a lot of people out. It doesn't matter what it is. Maybe you just enjoy, I don't know, maybe like me, I enjoy making content, and having this channel, I think, has really helped my mental health, because it's given me something to work towards. It's given me a passion project that has now fucking started to make me money. And I never thought that would be the case, and I never really wanted it to be the case. But it takes up as much time, if not more, than a full-time job, you know. just having that passion project that you can push towards really helps people out when they're struggling with that mental health. And I think it's important for men to find that thing that makes them tick. And it might take a while to find it. Like me, believe me, I've tried so many different things in life. I've done so many different hobbies and activities for 20 minutes and got bored of them. And my missus is always like, what fucking new thing have you found this month? You know, because I've like, this week I'm going to fucking take up Muay Thai. And the week before that, I was doing, you know, whatever it was, rugby.
I want to say something there as well, folks, in that one of the things that troubles Alex and I a lot is the likes of an Andrew Tate, who, no matter how much he says he's not, the guy's a misogynistic piece of shit. He does not value and respect women. If you do not value and respect the woman in your life and women in general, there's something wrong with you. If you do, everyone needs, this is, just talking about it from a hetero perspective. If you're gay and you've got a same-sex partner, but whatever it is, you need the value, you need the support of, in Alex, in my case, it's our missuses. Mm-hmm. And I would not be where I am in life. I'd probably be fucking dead, or at the minimum living in a fucking homeless shelter, mate, if it wasn't without having a strong fucking woman behind me. Not behind me, beside me. And often in front of me. She's the most amazing thing ever, and I would be lost without her. And that's what men have got to remember these days, a bit of honor and a bit of morals and a bit of virtue about, and love for your woman.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of people, like, my missus is absolutely incredible, and she is the one that is.
Has she forgiven you for the Christmas tree yet?
Yes, she has. But she's, like you said, I don't know many successful people in whatever that field may be that doesn't have an incredible woman by their side that has helped them. You know, if you've managed to achieve the things you want to achieve and you haven't had a woman there to support you, fair fucking play, because I'd have never managed it. They are, and I think a lot of guys, you might think, there's no good women out there anymore. There are, believe me. And when you find it, you won't let go of it, because believe me, I've dated many women who are not good for me.
My missus is my best mate in the world, mate.
And met my missus. She's my absolute best mate. I couldn't do anything without her. So it is so important. And they are incredible.
And it's just a bonus that they've got boobies.
Yeah, my missus got massive tits, so it's all good. Exactly. So it's just a win-win.
So is mine, to be fair. So, yeah, it's awesome. But, yeah, mate, I cannot thank you enough. I think this has been a really, really good chat. Something a bit different. Papa Boo, come here. Come on. He's getting a bit antsy. They'd be my producer, Hopper, in the background there, Golden Retriever. He's got his other one. And this is my co-star, Max. All right, you want to come around this side, do you? Come here, Max, up here. Come on. Hello.
He's adorable.
This is going to be a regular thing. I love my Golden Retrievers. And this guy here, he is basically a dog version of me, mate. When he gets flustered, he does stupid shit, and he's exactly like me. The missus can't believe this. He even snores like I do. But yeah, come on, buddy. Down you get.
He is adorable.
Yeah. And he turns 3 this year. But yeah, mate, I wish you all the best. Give your missus and your kids big hugs and kisses from me. And I really enjoyed this. I was really glad to do this first cab off the rank with you, mate. Because this is going to be the sort of format of what I want to do, is talk to people, find out about, a bit more about them, why they find gaming is such a great outlet. And I think you were a great first cab off the rank to have, my man.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
Now go and read those comments I left on your.
I will do. I'll go and have a look at them now.
I roasted the fuck out of you.
Good. I wouldn't have it any other way, mate.
Exactly, mate. Alex, thank you once again, mate. I wish you all the best. Got any videos coming out in the next couple of days?
Yeah, I have an Armour one coming out on Friday. Armour's great because it allows me to upload a lot more frequently. DayZ, as you know, can be a long slog to get a video out. I just had a week of getting killed by cheaters, so no DayZ video this week. But for sure, I got an Armour one coming out on Friday, and then I'll have another DayZ one after that. So yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, LSR. And everyone, thank you all so much. Don't forget the link I posted before. If you've got a few spare bucks, donate to Help for Heroes. And I will see you soon. I can't remember if I've got another one scheduled yet. I think I've got a couple coming up, but I will see you soon I'm going to be doing a spotlight on Everyone Knows Dave and a couple of other people I'm talking to as well. So all the best, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Take it easy,
Ciao
guys.
for now.